Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. I got Gregory Gwyn Williams on the program. He's been on the show before, and he is involved with CNSnews.com and just a number of important groups out there. Brett Bazell, Media's Research Center, and trying to make a difference, trying to help people figure out what's happening when it comes to the news, because frankly, the news we get is such propaganda from the major networks. And so I'm really glad that there's a beacon of truth out there like CNS and the folks here at the Media Research Center. Greg, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of chat going on about guns and what people need to know about guns, a lot of distortion as well. You got an article running over there at CNS News. You should not be selling guns and parts on the Internet is the basic gist of that. Bank of America is now coercing companies, crushing companies if you are in that business in their mind, if they're selling parts and guns online. Welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me, Kevin.
You bet, you bet. So, tell us, first of all, it's a pretty incredible beating of the drum now when it comes to the whole gun situation and cooperation, the level of cooperation between the politicians and the media on, and promoting this agenda is pretty far-reaching.
Yeah, it is, and that's usually always the case because the liberal media, the media is generally liberal, and they're always shilling for the left, and it's no different on the gun debate. Today we're going to get some info from Joe Biden to see what he's found, what he's come up with his task force on gun control, and Obama already alluded yesterday that there will be executive action to be taken. So we'll have to see what happens, but the media is carrying water for them for sure.
So, speaking of that executive action that we're hearing so much about, your thoughts on what that action could entail? What are you hearing from others?
I'm not exactly sure what executive action Obama could take outside of the boundary of enforcing existing laws. There's nothing that I know of that Obama can do by himself that would be constitutional. But again, nothing surprises me about this administration, so I don't really know what to expect. I don't think there could be any real legislation overhaul because it couldn't pass the House. But what Obama plans on doing by himself, I'm not sure. He may just, try to make this federal database that makes it necessary for every person to have a background check, but we'll have to see today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how does that differ from current law for those who aren't familiar?
Well, for example, a lot of people talk about the gun show loophole, and I don't really know where that came from because at every gun show I've ever been to, at every gun show that I've ever talked to anyone else that they've been to, you always get a background check when you purchase a firearm. Now, where you don't get a background check is when, in a state like Virginia, where I live, for example, if I were to sell a gun to a friend or another person that wanted to purchase one of my firearms, there's no background check that has to be done there, and the state of Virginia or the federal government wouldn't know that I sold that gun to another person. So I think that is one thing that the administration is looking to stop. They'd like every gun out there to be registered. So that's something that for sure they're going to be looking at.
Yeah. By the way, if some kind of crime was done on a gun that you sold to someone else, would you be held liable for that in Virginia?
If I purchased it?
No, if you sold a gun to a friend and he ended up using it in a crime, would you be held liable for that in Virginia?
Well, the only terms of selling a gun to someone, there are two basic terms. One, they have to be over 21 years old, and two, you have to be sure that they're not going to commit a crime with the weapon. Now, of course,
how can you know that for sure?
Exactly, that's subjective, and obviously that would go along with the trial that would ensue. Is did you know, or the facts would have to come out. I don't know that all the legal framework of that type of scenario, but you have to reasonably believe there is no chance that this person is going to use that weapon for a crime. But this varies from state to state. I mean, for example, in New Jersey, where I grew up, the laws are different. So it varies from state to state. And I think what the end game would be for this administration and the left in Congress right now is to have a more blanket rules for the entire nation.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, that's what they're trying to do in every single area of our lives, is to have the federal government usurp the state governments and local authorities in virtually everything. I don't care if it's business, I don't care if it's regulatory, whatever the deal is.
That's right.
And so it's just, and in every scenario, it isn't to reduce the burden of government, but to increase the burden of government. So interesting. It's an interesting time indeed, and I haven't seen people so tense on any issue maybe in my entire life. There is a lot of tension out there, and people who historically would have kind of scoffed and said, you know what, we know he's bound by the Second Amendment, but this guy has really showed himself not to believe that he's bound by anything.
That's right, and that's the one reason why many people right now are nervous, and you're seeing panic buying across the country. In December, we saw a 39% increase in gun sales. Every single state and Washington, D.C. saw an increase in gun sales in the month of December from November, 39% increase. I've been going to gun shows every weekend and talking to people. There are some types of ammunition you just can't get. It's all bought up. There are back orders, and it's because they've seen this president working before, and, like you said, it doesn't always seem like the law applies to them, and they have no remorse for that mentality. So it's something to be afraid of, especially because, and I think some people don't understand this, the Second Amendment, protecting your house is a positive consequence of the Second Amendment, but the Second Amendment was put in place to protect the people from oppressive government. So
the Second Amendment was the Bill of Rights are all checks on the government. Every one of the Bill of Rights are a check on the government, and the right to own guns is the ultimate and final check against the government that could get out of control. And I'm showing how crazy in my conservative beliefs I am. The right to succession was a belief that was clearly, in fact, no one until the 1850s believed that the right to succession could be challenged. That too was a check against the federal government that could go too far. And so ultimately, this is a power grab. It has nothing to do with safety. It had to do something with safety. I read an article, several articles that were saying that hammers killed more people in 2012 than guns did. Well, we need to crack down on these tools that people are able to freely get.
Right, and poison, by the way, killed 3.5 times more American youth below the age of 18 than guns did as well. So, those are correct facts. And like you said, it's a power grab. Obamacare is not about better health service; it's about control.
Yeah, it's all about control. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you being with me. As always, great job, as always. Do want to remind you that we do a lot of good stuff with our friends over there at CNS News and Media Research Center. Gregory Gwyn Williams. You might want to also check them out over at cnsnews.com. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. We're going to have more for you right after this, right here on The Price of Business.